Dear students, today's topic is relativistic electron in a central potential. In our previous classes, we have discussed the solution of Dirac equation in case of a free electron when the particle was free. And now in this class, we will develop the solution. In fact, the approach to solve the Dirac equation when a particle is placed in a central potential. Central potential, you understand that the potential is dependent on the radial coordinate r only, no angular dependence, no theta phi dependence. And the Dirac Hamiltonian will take the shape, as you understand, C alpha dot p plus beta mc square plus the potential. So far we were confined up to this part when the particle was free, and in this class we consider this VR potential, that is central in nature. And we know that the free particle Hamiltonian, the Dirac Hamiltonian, that means this part C alpha dot p plus beta mc square, that commute with the total angular momentum j, but the Hamiltonian does not commute with the orbital angular momentum L or the spin angular momentum S separately. L and S are not conserved quantities when you consider the relativistic Dirac Hamiltonian, but the total angular momentum J is conserved. We have studied it in detail in our previous classes. Now, when we consider a central potential VR, we see that this potential has no dependence on theta and phi. So VR depends on only r and no dependence on the angular coordinates. So this VR will also commute with the total angular momentum. That means in a central potential J, the total angular momentum operator is still conserved when the VR is included, because it commutes with VR, and the reason is written here. VR involves only r coordinates, whereas J does not depend on r. J is the angular momentum quantum number, depends on theta and phi and the spin part actually. Now, in case of non-relativistic case where we solved the Schrodinger equation in central potential, we remember that we tried to write the Hamiltonian using the form of L square. The Hamiltonian grad square was expanded in terms of r, theta and phi, and that theta phi part in non-relativistic case, that was replaced by the L square operator, actually the angular momentum operator L, orbital angular momentum operator. And then we used the method of separation of variables for solving the radial part, for solving the spherical harmonics corresponding to the angular part. In this case also we proceed by using the method of separation of variables. That means we will separate the angular part, and we will seek solutions which would be eigenfunctions of j square and jz, as we sought solution of L square and Lz, the spherical harmonics ylm theta phi. Those were eigenfunctions of L square and Lz. So we will try to seek such solutions, and depending on the character of VR, the shape of the central potential VR, the radial equation will be solved. As it was done in case of, say, hydrogen atom, we have done it. And in this case we will also try to proceed in a similar fashion, but things are little bit different here. We will see it, for which some additional modifications will be needed. And before we go into the detail, we just note the two operators. In fact, actually we will use the radial form of the operators, and the radial momentum operator, as you see, our momentum operator is p. You can take p as a vector operator, this one, and you take the components of it in Cartesian, say px, py, pz. Similarly, you can take its components in spherical polar coordinates, say pr, p theta and p phi. So the form of pr takes this form. I think this is known to you. We have done it in previous semester angular momentum classes, or if you cannot remember, just try from the definition of PR that PR will be given by the projection of momentum in the direction of r. That means r dot p, but as it is a quantum mechanical operator, it will be r dot p plus p dot r divided by 2, and then you just expand, you will find out this relation, pr equal to 1 by r into r dot p minus ih cut. And similarly, this one is the expression for alpha r, the radial shape of the alpha matrix, alpha r equal to 1 by r into alpha dot r, and you can see that by squaring, alpha r square equal to 1. And just a simple thing, you expand it in Cartesian coordinate, x alpha x plus y alpha y plus z alpha z, and by squaring you will use alpha x square equal to alpha y square equal to alpha z square equal to 1. Other terms will cancel, and this r will be cancelled with the r in denominator. So alpha r square equal to 1. Just you can try to calculate it on your own. And also for PR, you will find it in many books. So we proceed. The total angular momentum operator is therefore J equal to L plus S, and if we remember in our previous classes, L plus half h cut sigma. This sigma is a 4 by 4 matrix which involve Pauli spin matrices. So we calculate J square equals L square plus this one plus sigma square h cut square. Note that there are many mathematical steps in the class today. I will not read out or not explain every trivial step, but I will point out the important features here. Now, as we know, this sigma h cut, it corresponds to the spin operator. Actually, you can write it as L plus S. So J square equal to L square plus S square plus H plus L dot S, 2 into L dot S, which will give us H cut L dot sigma. And here there it would have been something like S square. So this S square has the eigenvalue of 3 by 4 H cut square, root over the eigenvalue of S is root over S into S plus 1 into H cut. S is half, so S square is half into half plus 1 into H cut square, which is 3 by 4 H cut square. You know it from angular momentum algebra of spin angular momentum. Now we use this identity. This is a very famous identity which we actually faced when we read Pauli spin matrices in using 2 by 2 matrices. In case of Pauli spin matrices, it was small sigma dot A, small sigma dot B equals A dot B plus I into small sigma dot A cross B. And when we use a 4-dimensional capital sigma matrix, the same identity holds, because in capital sigma matrix, the small sigma Pauli matrices are included. And A and B, these are operators which commute with this sigma, and they can, A and B can also commute among themselves, and they can even not commute. both are allowed. Now if we take now both a equal to L and b equal to L, both these vectors are taken as L, then we find in the left side sigma dot L whole square, and it is just L square minus a dot b, L dot L means L square, and I sigma dot a cross b. Now L cross L, L is an angular momentum operator which is a vector operator, you know. So L cross L is I h cut L. You have done it in angular momentum algebra, very elementary step. So you use it to and replace this L square in the J square equation, this equation. So in the J square equation you replace this L square from equation 3 and obtain an expression like J square equals sigma dot L plus h cut whole square minus h cut square by 4. Now in non-relativistic case we could write the Hamiltonian in terms of L square, as I have already said, and we know that we expanded grad square in r, theta and phi, and the theta phi part gives the form of the L square operator. And with the L square operator in the non-relativistic Hamiltonian, the L square operator and the corresponding radial part, the associated radial part was there. But in relativistic case, it is not possible to write Dirac Hamiltonian in terms of J square. In non-relativistic case, we were able to write the non-relativistic Hamiltonian using the form of L square. So we'll try the same approach here, but in relativistic case we cannot do that. It is not possible to write Dirac Hamiltonian H, this Hamiltonian H. You expand this one and try to write using something equal to J square, and you will see that it is not possible. So J square has the form like this, and we note that in J square, J means linear momentum, J means angular momentum plus spin, orbital angular momentum L plus spin angular momentum S. And in non-relativistic case, we see that in the Hamiltonian P, in non-relativistic case, in the Hamiltonian P comes as quadratic form, P square by 2m. And in L square, P comes in quadratic form. L square means P, L equal to R cross P, so L square means P comes in a quadratic form. Whereas in the relativistic case, we see that H is linear in P. We see the first equation, alpha dot P, that means H is linear in P, but in J square, P comes in quadratic form. So there is a mismatch, and we cannot write the relativistic Hamiltonian using the expanded form of J square. But it is possible to find out an alternative way. The form of J square, this form of J square makes it easier for us to frame another operator, equivalent operator, which we see it now, that just take this h square by 4 on the left side, and you are left with J square plus h cut square equals sigma dot L plus h cut square, and you name it as K. In the, then K will be equal to sigma dot L plus h cut. But this is not enough. For mathematical convenience, we will not work it out in detail. For mathematical convenience, we will use this form of K. K equal to beta to sigma dot L plus h cut. So if you square it, K square will be beta square sigma dot L plus h cut, where beta square equals 1. It is known for us. This is the Dirac matrix which gives beta square equal to 1. So K square takes this shape, but K involves 1 beta, which is important to facilitate other commutation relations and to take advantage in the mathematical steps, but we will not carry out every mathematical step in detail. In that case it will be too long. Now this beta ensures that k commute with h, that is hk equals 0. That is a very important relation. We will use it to solve the equations, to write down the equations. Now we will wish to have the eigenvalues of k. Let the eigenvalues of k, we see from here that k has the dimension of angular momentum. So let us assume that the eigenvalues of k are small k into h cut. From equation 5, this one, k equal to beta sigma dot L plus h cut, we see that h cut has the and therefore k has the dimension of angular momentum. So let it be, the eigenvalues be k into k, capital K operator. The eigenvalues are small k into h cut. Now using 4 and 5, which one is 4? This expression. Just you know that the eigenvalues, if you use the eigenvalues, then k square equals which one is k square? This one. So k square h cut square equals j square, means j into j plus 1 h cut square, the eigenvalues here you see it, and 1 by 4 h cut square, this part. And you do a simple algebra to find out that k equals plus minus j plus half. Now what is j? J comes from the addition of orbital angular momentum L and spin angular momentum S, and the orbital angular momentum L has quantum numbers 0, 1, 2, so that the eigenvalues are 0, h cut, 2 h cut, 3 h cut, integer multiples of h cut. And for S operator, the spin angular momentum S, the eigenvalues are half S given by half multiple of h cut. So j will be definitely, we have seen it in addition of angular momentum. We have seen that the j will take these values, half, 3 by 2, 5 by 2, and so on. And so k will have another additional half with j. So k will definitely have plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3. So only integer values other than 0. These are the eigenvalues of k, and we will now try to seek, as k we have discussed that k commutes with the Hamiltonian, we will seek the solution which diagonalizes both the Hamiltonian and the k operator. That means we will take simultaneous eigenfunctions of h and k. What is the benefit in that? In that case, if the eigenfunctions of Hamiltonian are also eigenfunctions of this operator k, then when we use that eigenfunction in the Dirac equation, we can replace k by its eigenvalues. The operator form will not be needed. And we further note that we will need it later, that the sigma is expressed in a form capital Sigma with small sigma, and small sigmas are Pauli matrices and zeros are the null matrices. And using this definition of sigma and the anti-commutation relation between sigmas and that is the Pauli spin matrices and other alpha and beta matrices, we can show that this relation also holds, where this is alpha dot A alpha dot B equals A dot B plus I sigma dot A cross B. Note that this is I sigma, but here the dot product is taken with alphas. This has a difference with the previous one. Here the sigma dot A sigma dot B, and in the right side it is sigma, but the relation, an equivalent relation, is alpha dot A into alpha dot B equals A dot B into in the right hand side it is sigma. So be very careful to choose it. You can use various you can try to solve it, and you will find guidelines in every standard book, say Mathus Venkatesan, Ghotak Loknathan. And definitely where A and B are operators that commute with alpha matrices. Now we said A equals R and B matrix equals P. So what happens? R position and momentum, they do not commute. In the previous identity where we used capital sigma, we used both A equal to L and B equal to L. So A and B commute. In this case A and B are A equals R, B equals P, so they do not commute, and you expand the relation. Just write it down, and R cross P, for which you write down L, and do some algebra to find out that this alpha dot P, so alpha dot P equals alpha R PR plus I by R into alpha R beta into K. That means you use sigma dot L plus IH cut, you obtain this one and replace it by K. One catch here, you use sigma dot L plus IH cut from here, just to see, you use it as beta into K. This beta K comes here. This is one catch, and if you see the form of K here, so K equals beta into sigma dot L plus H cut. Now multiplied both side by beta, so it will be beta K equals beta square into this one, and beta square equal to 1. So sigma dot L plus H cut equals beta K. Use it here. Take I common, sigma dot L plus H cut, which is equal to beta K. And if you have alpha R and you have alpha R in the left side, so multiply by alpha R throughout, so you obtain alpha R square here. Then alpha R square equals 1, so you use these matrix properties of alpha and beta, and you obtain alpha dot P equals alpha R PR plus I by R alpha R beta K. That's a beautiful algebra, in fact. You will enjoy it doing. The Dirac Hamiltonian under central potential thus takes in radial operators becomes H equals C alpha R PR plus I C R alpha R beta K plus beta MC square as it was, and the central potential BR. Now, as we have seen that K commutes with this Hamiltonian K operator. In fact, this K operator commutes with each term in the Hamiltonian. Therefore, we can choose a complete set of eigenfunctions of H. We choose a set of eigenfunctions, a complete set. That means the eigenfunctions satisfy the completeness conditions, which are also eigenfunctions of this K operator, because K commutes with H, so they have simultaneous eigenfunctions. Now, if we choose those eigenfunctions for Hamiltonian which are also eigenfunctions of K, that means those eigenfunctions diagonalize both the Hamiltonian operator and the K operator, then the K operator in this equation is replaced by its eigenvalues K into H cut. So we now need the form of the alpha matrix, alpha R and beta matrices, and we take it in this form, that alpha R equals sigma 0 small I into identity matrix, same here, multiplied by sigma R, and sigma R has the form of sigma R, it has the form small sigma R 0 0 small sigma R. We have seen it before. Sigma has a form of in vector operator form, actually sigma, and you can use components here. Though if it is sigma x, it will be small sigma x, small sigma x. If it is in radial coordinate, it will be sigma r here, and it will be small sigma r, small sigma r. So this form is used here. So alpha r is taken this way, whereas sigma r will be of this form, and beta is of this shape I 0 0 minus I, Now you calculate alpha r beta. You will see that this is the sigma matrix and this is the beta matrix, as the beta matrix composes of only identity operators, so they commute. So you change the places, you put beta matrix inside and the alpha matrix at extreme right, sigma matrix in the extreme right. And now you calculate, you carry out this matrix multiplication to see that, and use the compact form here, sigma r, capital Sigma. So your alpha r beta is this shape. Now again from 8 we know that we have, as we have already said, we use this alpha r, we will use in this part, this alpha r beta we will use in this part, where the k operator, if you see it, the k operator has been replaced by its eigenvalue h cut k, and the additional part beta mc square plus the central potential. Now as alpha r, actually they involve the spin matrices and has no radial dependence. So alpha r, you see that it will commute with the radial component of momentum, and sigma r, this sigma r commutes with h in equation 10, commutes the Hamiltonian equation 10. Where is sigma r? Sigma r is inherent in this alpha and sigma r is inherent in this alpha r beta, and so sigma r also commutes with the Hamiltonian. So we will try to use, as we have done in case of k operator, we used the eigenvalues, we use the eigenvalues of k operator because k is commuting with Hamiltonian, and we will take such eigenfunctions which are simultaneous eigenfunction of k and h. Now we use the eigenvalues of sigma r. As sigma r, they are composed of Pauli spin matrices. Actually, you can see that just by operating twice, sigma r squared, that will give you 1, and the eigenvalues will come out to be plus minus 1. So we just name that epsilon equal to plus minus 1. So here also we will use the eigenvalue of sigma r operator when we choose those eigenfunctions which are simultaneous eigenfunctions of h and sigma r. Here two things you have to note. Number one, this k operator, it actually gives us the angular momentum operator. In angular momentum operator, there are spin coordinates and angular momentum, orbital angular momentum, that means theta phi, angular coordinates theta phi along with spin coordinates. So those coordinates come through k. In addition to that, through this alpha r, as alpha r depends on this sigma matrix, through this sigma matrix, again the spin dependence are some dependence of spin are coming through sigma matrices, and some part of spin dependence on spin comes through the k matrix, k operator. And we use the eigenfunctions of both k and sigma, which are eigenfunctions of the Hamiltonian. In this case, we have already replaced the k operator by its eigenvalue, and then we will replace the sigma operator by its eigenvalue. So just we as the eigenvalue of sigma r is plus minus 1, we just name it at epsilon. It will help us in writing down the expressions. And just we now write down the Dirac equation in using the matrices, where the function is taken as psi, which is a 4-component spinner, and it is written in 2 component parts. this is psi equals uv. We have done it in when we started the plane wave solution. Same technique here. This u is a two component column vector, this v is also a two component column vector, so uv is actually a four component column vector. Then the Dirac equation becomes, I have just replaced everything, it is the alpha matrix here, and I have used epsilon in case of epsilon into alpha. What I have done, I have used alpha r equals this matrix into sigma r. In case of sigma r, we use its eigenvalue plus minus epsilon, that actually plus minus 1 or epsilon, we use epsilon. So epsilon into this matrix is our alpha r, and epsilon into this matrix is our alpha r into beta. So epsilon into a matrix, alpha gives alpha part, and again this epsilon into this matrix gives us alpha r beta, and then mc square plus v, and you multiply it by beta matrix, and v r is multiplied by the unit matrix, actually remember it, and then you look at the expression. This every here actually it looks like 2 by 2 matrices everywhere, but all of them are actually 4 by 4 matrices. So be very careful in understanding this. Now we will use some mathematical results, that as p r equals 1 by r into this one, and r dot, again p r, the radial component of momentum depends on r dot p, so r dot p is minus ih cut into r del del r. So replace it here to obtain p r equals minus ih cut del del r, this expression minus ih cut del del r plus 1 by r. Now we will use this one, and we carry out the matrix all the matrix operations in equation 11 here, this equation. So first we multiply this coefficient with the matrix elements, then we do the element wise sum to find out that this is the 1 1 element, and so on. Just you calculate it, then do the matrix multiplication as you are as you do it, so in this way, and you obtain two equations here. Each equation is actually a two component equation. So the first one involves both u and v, the second one also involves both u and v. Now you use the p r equal to minus ih cut into del del r plus 1 by r here. So using 12 in 13 we obtain two equations. These two are equations. Two equations we obtain. Now we want to note one point, very important thing here. So you see, actually these are two equations, but if you choose epsilon, what is epsilon? Epsilon was the eigenvalue of sigma operator, and epsilon can take two values, plus 1 minus 1. So actually we have four equations here. Now we want to focus a bit more. I just, for convenience, I just named it. This is named as A, this part is named as B, this part is named as C, and so on, and this part is named as D. B and C are common here, so that equation 14 it becomes AU plus epsilon into BV by epsilon into C into B. This C is definitely not velocity of light, this is something different, capital C, just a symbol, and the equation 15 gives this one. Now you use epsilon equals plus 1, so you obtain AU plus BV plus CV equals 0, DV minus BU plus C equals 0, and now put epsilon equals minus 1, so you obtain this expression. Now if you focus here and give just a transformation, that you put U, you keep U as U, this U, the first the U is not changed, but you change your V as minus V. So in set B, if we replace this V function by minus V function, then what is the shape of B? This becomes AU plus BV plus CV, which means this equation. AU plus V, put V equals minus V, and then this becomes minus DV plus BU minus CU. Take the minus 1 out, it becomes plus DV minus BU plus CU. That means it is written here. Just you replace it. That means set A is obtained from set B if you just replace the solution V by minus V. Therefore, we will do only one solution, epsilon equal to one solution we will solve. We will obtain the solution and then write minus V in place of V, and we obtain the complete set of solutions. I think you got it. Now we have go back to our equation that all angles and spin dependent components of the operator H are included in operator K and also in sigma in fact. So which is replaced by its eigenvalue H cut K, because we chose simultaneous eigenfunctions of H and K. So U and V in equation 14 and 15, that means these two equations, U and V, they are simply radial parts, because the angular parts and the spin component parts, they are included in K. All their effect comes from the eigenvalue H cut K. So only we are left with the radial part. So definitely this U and V will give us the radial part, and for mathematical convenience we just replace U by F as a function of R divided by R, and G a function of R divided by R. U and V are replaced, and then just do some replacement, carry out this derivative. This derivative we just carry out. We write V equals GR by R, and we write U as FR by R. Carry out the derivative, one term will cancel out. You see, I have done one step here, and you see that this term cancels out, and then R is there in the denominator for all the terms. So multiply by R and you find out this solution, the dg dr plus k by r into g plus 1 by h cat c into this expression, the function of f multiplied by function of f equals the function of f r actually equals 0. And similarly from equation, the other equation 15 gives this expression. So equation 17 and 18, you see that they are differential equation, first order differential equations, but they are coupled differential equations. Both the equations involve f and g functions, and these equations are to be solved by using the exact form of the central potential Vr, because if we do not know the form of Vr, we now cannot proceed further. And in the next class we will take Vr as the Coulomb potential. That means we will solve the Dirac equation for hydrogen atom. That is for enough for today. So we stop here.